Everybody, hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's pre-lock show. I have my guy B-Dubs here today. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing good. Kind of excited about this slate, especially with that Simons news we got. So definitely looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it's getting good. We're still waiting on the cat news. That's going to be pretty huge, but for now, it's looking interesting. And I feel like we have some chalky plays we like, but then there's also some lower-owned guys that we'll get to as well. But before we talk about tomorrow, or not tomorrow, before we talk about today's slate, let's look at yesterday's slate. For me, yesterday was slightly negative. It wasn't awful, but, wasn't positive. But our guy, J69 Killa, took second place in the mini max. He beat the 50K winning lineup. So we'll look at his line instead of the 50K winning one. So he had D'Angelo Russell in there, which the minutes were concerning with D'Lo somewhat, and he's been a bit inconsistent, but he had a super soft matchup against Dallas. And so that play was freaking fantastic at low ownership. Keontae George, he was pretty chalky last night. Great matchup against Charlotte, so that made sense. DeMar DeRozan at 2% ownership he had in there. Again, good game environment. I know I forced exposure to Sabonis there, but DeRozan crushed 51 fantasy points. Bam Adebayo, we talked about on the pre-lock show. He was someone we forced exposure to. Thomas Bryant was the chalk of the slate. Jaden Springer at 1.2% ownership. Guard play in a high total environment. Super dart throw by Jay, but it made sense. Miles Bridges also in that really good game environment going up against Utah. His minutes were the concern, but Jay still took that shot on him. And at 4% ownership, that makes sense. And so I'm not mad at it. And then Al Horford saw a boost yesterday once we got that Jaylen Brown news. And he was someone that I saw you, Brandon, answer a question about Al Horford versus someone else, and Al Horford made sense. And I also boosted some exposure to him as well. So all in all, okay slate yesterday. Today will be a better one. Dixon said, now all of the NBA teams want to use torpedo balls because everyone's hitting home runs with the torpedo bats. I see you, Dixon. Appreciate you, man. But yeah, that torpedo bat situation in MLB is getting a little weird. I'm curious to see what they do long term, but I'm here for it. I like scoring. But locks at 7:30, so we have a little bit of extra time, guys. Don't feel like we're super rushed. But we have a nice 6-game slate. We'll start off with the Portland Trail Blazers against the Hawks. Great matchup, great game environment. And like you mentioned, Brandon, we got the news that Simons is out. And so that was a huge boost to guys like Sharp and Avdia. Scoot Henderson's been out for a bit now. Who are you looking at here?
I mean, this is one of my favorite teams on the slate. I mean, I'll say probably everybody's favorite with the news we just got, like you said. And, of course, these projections will vastly change that we see. So I'll start with the obvious. The top three guys here will definitely be a core play for me. And Avdia, Sharp, and Banton. They should just get majority of the usage tonight. And we love attacking the Hawks defense. Should be a nice pace game, hopefully high scoring. And all three of these guys have some really nice upside. Outside of the obvious three, I definitely want to make sure I get some Kamara exposure. Mm-hmm. He can kind of be inconsistent at times, but we've seen some nice upside from him, and 5,800 is still a nice price for the spot. And then Klingon has been really spotty lately and really volatile. But again, we love the matchup, and even more so with Simons and Grant missing another one too. So want to make sure I force some exposure to him. I'm okay with being over the field on Kamara, but I'll probably be even on Klingon, depending on what that goes up to. Yeah. Then if DS happens to give me any of these other turds down here, then I'm definitely okay with that, but won't be as much of a priority for me.
Yeah, this game has the second highest total on the slate. Close spread. Both are still playing for something. So this is one of those spots where I'm looking for reasons to play these guys. not really trying to overthink it. Like you mentioned, and like Dixon's saying in the chat, I basically have 100% exposure to Denny Avdia, technically 97%. I'm not going to lock him, but that should be significantly over the field. Banton is showing up in 99% of my lines. Banton, he has disappointed us before in the past when he's a little bit more expensive when he gets in that 4K range, but when he's 3,300, not going to overthink it, especially against the Hawks and with him starting. So I like him. And then Sharp, like you mentioned, is showing up in every line. Klingon is right now showing up in about 30% of my lines, which I'm comfortable with. That's a little bit of leverage there. I do expect that to fall as I continue to force more exposure, and especially depending on what happens with Cat. And also appreciate it, Dixon. If you all could hit the like button, would greatly appreciate that. But back to it. Let's see. Anyone else showing up for me? I think Kamara was a great call. He's someone that I had to force a little bit of exposure to because he wasn't showing up by himself. I have a 15% min on him, but depending on what happens with ownership, I am willing to increase that if need be. So we'll see what the DS does with the rest of it. Other side of this game is I like the Hawks. I just don't love their ownership, but I'm still going to eat it. What's your thought process here?
So I'll start with Trey. So he's been kind of bouncing in and out of my lines. So for now, he's I love the game environment, but and he actually hasn't been playing too bad. But at 9,800, he really hasn't really paid that off or shown upside beyond this price. So he's somebody I'm okay with being under the field on. I did put a 10% min on him just in case he does go off because, again, it is a nice game environment, so potential is definitely there. But I'm okay not reaching this 22% because I just like other plays a bit more around his price. Okongwu, I do like him quite a bit in this spot. Not too concerned with him going against Klingon down low, especially since his minutes have kind of been all over the place too, Klingon. So could potentially be someone smaller down there for a decent amount of the game too. So I think this is a potential smash spot for him. Had a little bit of Levert showing up, but definitely not a priority or someone I feel like I need to force in. Risa Shea, he was a sim model play for me. His floor is very scary, but he does have that upside. And again, we love this game, so I want to make sure I have him. And same with Dyson. He just does everything on this team. And as long as he's in this 7K range, he's shown multiple times throughout the season he has 50-point upside. Definitely want to make sure I have some shares on him as well.
Yeah, these Hawks I'm struggling with because Portland, they play at a quick pace, but they are not a defense I'm usually afraid to attack, but they're solid. They really haven't given up a ton of fantasy points typically in these matchups, and it's led to a lot of disappointment this season. Jalen Johnson's not back unless I'm missing something. Have you seen him?
He had season-ending surgery like a while ago.
Yeah, so Johnson's still out, which helps. But for me, just because of the game environment, I do think it's viable to fade these guys, but I do have a 22% min on Young, 16% min on Okongwu, 10% on Daniels, 15% on Risa Shea, and I have a 10% min on Man as well. That was more of a sim model play for me, but I don't love this team, but just because of the game environment and let the sim like these guys a decent amount, I just force some exposure to make sure they're in my mix, but not going too crazy on these guys tonight. Next up, we have a game I like more than I think a lot of other people do. Solid game total here at 224.5. Spread 6.5 points. Sun side of things, Kevin Durant is out. For me, I feel like that's a pretty big deal, but it doesn't seem like a lot of other people care too much. We did get the news that Royce O'Neal's out and Bradley Beal's out as well. I love this spot for a lot of players, but am I crazy? Are you liking any of these guys?
No, not at all. We were talking about Devin Booker before the show, and I think we were both on the same page. Don't want to speak for you, but definitely when KD is out, I love playing Booker. And then we say it all the time, guards against the Bucks. So put a 20% min on him just to get some leverage there. The rest of these guys, it's honestly hard to tell, and I'll probably just wait for the starting line because, I mean, Cody Martin got a pretty nice bump, so he could potentially be in play, especially if he starts. Grayson Allen could start, which I'd definitely be okay with playing him if that's the case. It's kind of sad to see that they've been going towards Gillespie because usually love taking shots on Tyus, but I think with all these guys out, he could potentially be somebody in play. So for the rest of these guys, I'll just wait for the starting line and then kind of go from there. And
Yeah.
Bowl too. Like if Bowl starts, like he's going to be a smash play at 3,700. So I have no clue what this team is going to do, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, like you said, ooh, appreciate that power. Yabu Saley's out. Looking at Bona too now at that center position. It's going to be a solid value or a decent amount of solid value options here. I think that's a good call. Just kind of really waiting to see what happens with the starting lineup here because whoever starts is in the ideal situation. Devin Booker is going to be a leverage play for me. I have a 20% min on him for the reasons you mentioned. And then Cody Martin is projecting well, so he's showing up in like 3% of my lines currently, but this is a situation I'm watching as we get closer and closer to lock and making adjustments off of that because I don't think, possibly given all the value we have, some of these guys could go significantly overlooked and they shouldn't be. So I am looking to attack with these starters, but Devin Booker is my priority first and foremost, and then I'm going to force in the rest of the starters as well. Anyone else you want to touch on? Let me look at the usage rates right quick. I will say with Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Royce O'Neal out, Cody Martin actually sees the highest increase in usage at 9.3%, and then it's Devin Booker at 4.7%. So naturally, I am going to try and be over the field on these guys, and especially Cody Martin. If he does see 21 minutes tonight at 3K, that's the guy I want to see show up a decent amount.
I'll mention Ryan Dunn too. He's definitely in play as well.
Yeah. So starting lineup's going to be interesting. And I agree with you on Tyus. He actually sees like typically the highest increase in points, like fantasy points when these three are out, but he's just hard to trust right now given his inconsistent minutes. For the Buck side of things, this team I hate seeing. Like literally, they're just not a team I get overly excited to see. We do have Lillard out. Still, he'll be out for the rest of the season. AJ Green, none of these things really matter for me too much. I like the matchup against the Suns. Originally, before we got some of this news, I liked KPJ. I liked Gary Trent Jr., but I think I'm getting closer to getting off of them. Now that we have other value, I like a bit more. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I was gonna say as you said that I had a 5% man on KPJ, but with some of this other value that is opened up, I really don't think you'll need him. But starting with Giannis, he's been very frustrating to play because he's been around this 12K price and hasn't really gotten anywhere near paying it off. I do like this spot for him, so hopefully he can finally bounce back tonight. I don't think he'll be a core play for me, but I'll be slightly over the field. I think I'm at 49%, so I'm okay with that. And then Rollins is showing up quite a bit for me too. I'm always kind of iffy and on the fence with him, but it is a good matchup for him as well. So he's been pretty solid the last few games, so definitely don't mind having exposure there. And then probably don't need Kuz. He's one of the more inconsistent guys on this team, but I did put a 10% min on him. I just like his price, and he's been getting like in the mid 30s. So hopefully this is a game where he can kind of knock a few more shots down and show some of that upside that we know is there. And then we talk about Lopez all the time. Love taking shots on him when his ownership is this low. And Phoenix is a team who struggles down low. So I can definitely see this being one of Lopez's smash games. So wanted to make sure I got exposure there.
Yeah, I can't join you on Kuzma. I get it. I just can't stand him.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not trying to, but Giannis just isn't showing up for me right now, and a lot of that has to do with me forcing exposure to a decent amount of 9K players we haven't gotten to yet, but we will here soon. And so right now, Giannis just isn't showing up for me, and his lack of upside just leaves me wanting more. And so I'm not going to force exposure to him here. That could burn me, but if it does, hopefully you all have plenty, and I'll be able to celebrate with y'all. But for right now, I'm not going to force it. I do have a 10% min on Brook Lopez, right there with you on that one, man. Love this spot for him. And then Ryan Rollins is showing up for me in a decent amount of my lines, roughly like 30 to 35%. So I'm not going to do anything to tinker with it. At 4,300, if he does see 31 minutes, he should be able to get there for us in a pretty soft matchup. Next up, we have the 76ers going up against the Knicks. Tough matchup, but we did get the news that Yabusele is out, which only helps this not great situation for them. We'll look at some of these questions. Dixon said, serious question. Why has Book not been scoring lately? Surely he has to put up at least 30 without KD. You would think. You would think. That's part of why I like him tonight. That's why I have him as a leverage play, because he doesn't have any more excuses at this point. He needs to come through in this spot. KD can take on the brunt sometimes. Beal has been helping a little bit there too on the scoring end here lately, but we'll see. I haven't played Book too much. I've usually been playing KD over Booker, but yeah, I get it. I think he definitely has to assist in the scoring tonight, or else he's dead to me. No lie. Jason, we'll come back to your question. I see you, man. It's important, so we have to come back to that towards the end. I don't ban players. If Kuzma's in a fantastic spot in the future, I will consider it, but he's dead to me for now. All right. I see you liking Council. Brandon, do you like any of these Sixers tonight so far?
Not really, to be honest. Like you said, it's a pretty tough matchup, and majority of these guys are kind of priced up now with all the guys they've been missing. However, with Yabusele just rolled out, I definitely want to get some exposure to Bona. And if Cat does end up getting rolled out, it just makes it that much sweeter for him. So I'll kind of be keeping an eye on his ownership, and I'll just match the field. I'm even okay with going slightly over the field on him, because he's one guy who's been taking advantage of all the minutes he's been seeing, and definitely like that he's one of the cheaper guys. So definitely okay with that. If there's anybody else I had to pick, it'll probably be Justin Edwards or Butler, but you kind of reaching at that point, I would say.
They're a little pricey for their production here recently, especially in a tough matchup, but it's not impossible. I agree. Those would be the two plays, but you can't get me on that one. Bona, like you mentioned, if Cat gets ruled out, I like him a lot. But for now, I have a 4% min on him, so I'm slightly over the field. It's just hard for me to get overly excited about him, knowing he's going to be in a pretty tough matchup. But if Cat gets ruled out, I'm definitely willing to increase that even more. The Knicks side of things is interesting because they have a super soft matchup against the Sixers, but the amount of Bridges I've been getting in my lines is a little bit unspeakable. I don't think I can talk about that publicly. I did have to cap him at 60%. Yeah, I just put a 60% exposure max on Bridges because he was showing up in 85% of my lines. And with him being at 20% ownership and super inconsistent, that's insanity. But if Cat gets ruled out, I'm taking that max off because This is a fantastic matchup, and the game should actually stay a little bit closer. This is a wide spread, but I will be a lot more comfortable about the situation if Cat's out. How are you attacking this team?
So yeah, I wasn't getting quite as much Bridges, but he was definitely popping like around 60%. So didn't have to do anything to force him in. I wasn't getting as much OG as I wanted, so I did put a 25% min on him just due to the soft matchup, and he's actually been playing pretty well lately. I did forget about Josh Hart, or I might wait for the Cat news for Hart. If he's out, I'll definitely play Hart. But I definitely, even if Cat does play, if somebody asks me if it was okay to play hard, I'm definitely not against it. Delon Wright, I think he's getting slept on. He hasn't like had any like spectacular games or anything, but he's been solid the last couple of games since campaign has been ruled out. So I put a 15% min on him, and he's a sim model play for me as well. So wanted to get some leverage on him in this matchup, and then that is pretty much it. Only other guy I'll mention is Mitchell Robinson is definitely in play if Cat gets ruled out. But pretty much focusing on these starters here.
Yeah, I agree. I like a lot of the plays you mentioned. I have an 8% min on Wright, just kind of mixing him in there. I have a 12% min on Hart. I almost made him a leverage play today, but it's just a little bit too expensive for me if Cat plays. But like a lot of these guys, they just become much stronger plays if he's out. I also have a 25% min on OG. Don't feel any type of way about it. It just makes sense for me on this slate with him having a soft matchup here. And then Bridges is showing up in 60% of my lines right now. So that's fine too. Not going to fight the DS on it, even though I want to. Next up, we have the Raptors going up against Chicago. Two bad defenses going head to head. Chicago played last night, so they're on the back end of a back-to-back. The Raptors have been a volatile team. I feel like we've seen all of their starters pop off within like the last week or two at some point from a DFS perspective. I didn't force exposure here, but it looks like you did. So you might be able to talk me into these guys.
Yep. Walter is a guy I'm just going to continue to force in. He's been really solid, especially last game. He had like a 40-something point game, DraftKings point game. And he's popping on the sim model yet again. Love the matchup. So forcing him in at 20%. I actually might just match the field at 15%.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I was like, okay, I can do 15, 20. I don't know anymore. All
right. Quickly, we mentioned all the time, like he's been on and off, like as far as playing in the game, he comes back, he just does well. Like he's done that the last few games, and we mention him every time, and he just keeps smashing. So he's somebody I want to not make sure I not forget about against
this is where I get worried.
Horrible defense. Podol. So he's one guy that we continue to say, like, we're so worried about his minutes. This team is tanking, blah, blah, blah. But the last two games, he has played 24 minutes on a dot and has scored 46 points both times. So I was like, you know what? Even if he sucks tonight, in this matchup, I'm playing him. So I put a 10% min on him. And then Magba and Battle, they were just a couple more value plays that were popping on the sim model that I wanted to throw in the mix as well. So I have quite a few pieces on this.
So I had a like on Quickly, Portal, Sheed, and Battle. I can join the Walter train. I'm good with Quickly. Jakob Portal scares the hell out of me. But, you know, it's kind of like one of those when you can't beat him, you join him. But I just know as soon as I play him, he's going to suck again.
Yep.
So, but this is the third highest total on the slate. Soft matchup against the Bulls. And so I'm going to go there too. We're looking for reasons to play guys from this game environment. So I'm not going to get too crazy there. Sheed, let me just look a little bit closer at and just confirm that he was the right play in the sim that was standing out. 46. 4.5. I mean, he's pretty much mixed in there with me with guys like Levert, Gary Trent Jr., and Zach Edey. So he didn't stand out too much where I feel like you have to force exposure to him. But I do have a 5% min on him. And then, do you do anything in the battle, or do you just kind of leave him as he is?
I put a 5% min on him. He worries me more than anyone else out here, but he's been seeing a lot of minutes and is still fairly cheap. So figure 5% is worth the risk.
Mm-hmm. And then Barnes, you just didn't get to because his minutes haven't been there for his price tag.
Yep. He's definitely one guy I'm okay with still fading.
Yeah. All right. I like it. The other side of this game is interesting as well. We did get the news that Josh Giddey's going to play. There was a little bit of concern that he might miss. He he didn't play too much last night because he didn't play, and he played pretty well until he stopped playing. But he has another solid matchup here against the Raptors. I like the Bulls tonight, and it looks like you're with me on a lot of this too. I'm going to force a ton of exposure here. So I have a 12% min on Giddey, 10% min on White, 10% min on Vucevic. I know he's our guy. He's been disappointing us here recently, but in a soft matchup, excited about that. And then we got the Herder news as well. He makes me a bit more nervous on this slate, just given the news we've gotten. And so I have a like on him currently, and he's not showing up in really any of these lines. And I'm not going to push the issue here with him or force it any more than that. How are you looking at the Bulls?
I thought about Giddey, but 9,600. I know he's been playing better, but that price is a bit concerning for me, especially with him being a bit banged up. So not sure if I'm going to force him in, but I do love Buzelis. Like, he's been looking really good and showing a lot of potential. So I did force him in to match the field. And then, like you mentioned with Vooch, he's typically our guy. Overall, he's been kind of disappointing this year, but it's against the Raptors who struggle down low. So definitely want to make sure I get some leverage there.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get to Herder either. Like, he could definitely pop off in the spot, but I just don't trust him enough.
Yeah, and we're backtracking a little bit, but did you look at Levert at all for the Hawks?
The DS was giving me some of them. I didn't force him in or anything, but he's a little too iffy for me to feel strong about.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He's showing up a little, but I didn't force anything there.
It looks like we'll be playing a lot of Mitchell Robinson too.
Yeah, all of those Knicks. The cap is off of Bridges. We'll go back to them, but yeah, we're playing a shit ton of Knicks tonight. Didn't really put the slate on its head because we were already playing a lot of the Knicks, but they are looking significantly better now. Yep. Next up, we have the Warriors going up against Memphis. For the Warriors, the big thing here is that they're missing Kuminga tonight, and so that's pretty massive for them. Nothing else really new from an injury perspective. This is the second highest total on the slate. Great matchup against the Grizzlies. They're not a good defensive team. Anyone standing out for you from the Warriors?
Yeah, I think this team is getting slept on a bit. I'm actually going to adjust some of these. Like, I'm going to bump Curry up a bit more. But, yeah, I love playing guys against this Memphis team. It's just always a good, high-scoring, fantasy-producing game against Memphis. So I kind of wanted to take some shots on most of their main guys. So 15% min on Curry. Butler really hasn't been that good, but again, it just due to the environment. And just in case, we know that potential is still there, even though he hasn't shown it. I wanted some exposure to him. I thought about Podziemski, but I didn't get there. I just like other guards more, especially with all the value that opened up in Portland. Buddy Hield should see a lot of minutes, even more with Kuminga out. So I feel like he's getting slept on at this ownership. And then I typically don't like playing Draymond, but again, with Kuminga out, that kind of solidifies his role a bit more down low. So don't mind him in this matchup. And then Moody was somebody I wanted to make sure I remember too, because typically when guys are missing on this team, he's one of the more common ones who steps up. So, yeah, taking a lot of shots here.
Yeah, I'll follow you on Moody. I wasn't really thinking about him, but him and Kuminga are always like 1-to-1 for me, especially once we get to playoff season. That has burned me before and worked out in my favor before. So that was a good call. Outside of that, I had Curry and Butler as leverage plays, but now just because we have more value, you're seeing their ownership increase a bit because people can now afford them a bit easier, and they're big names at decent prices. So those type of things are always going to happen. But like you said, it's a soft matchup. So I have an 18% min on Curry. Again, that was leverage. Now it's just me being slightly over the field. 20% min on Jimmy Butler. He's not trustworthy, but in a great matchup, I'm going to take a shot here at low ownership. I have a 10% min on Draymond Green. like you, I thought about Pods, but I just have a like on him, and he's not showing up. Then I have a 10% min on Buddy for the reasons you mentioned. At 3,700, 25 minutes, we know he can get hot. That's a player I want to force a little bit of exposure to, but I don't trust him too much. All right, the other side of this game is tough, really tough. You don't like to pick on the Warriors too much, but I'm still going to. This is the second highest total game on the slate, so I'm trying to find reasons to play these guys. I have a 5% min on Ja. Again, I think this is completely avoidable. You don't have to do this, but I would like forcing exposures and getting a nice mix of stud options, especially the lower owned ones, in a good positive game environment. This should stay competitive, like you mentioned. That's usually when I like to play Ja. I just wish it was against the Bulls or a soft matchup or something like that. But for now, I'll have exposure. Aldama, I'll talk to you a little bit more about, just kind of see your thoughts. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him yet. He's kind of fallen off for me. So I'm considering putting him in on him, but we'll see. Actually, I am, because I like playing bigs against the Warriors. And then I have a 3% min on Zach Edey. He's been disappointing me here recently, but I like playing bigs against the Warriors. Just so happens to be him today, and his minutes have been going in the right direction. You can make a case for JJJ. It looks like you're looking at him, so I'll let you talk me into it a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like this side of the ball as much as the Warriors, of course. Aldama, I didn't really do anything to. I'm getting 7%, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, solid.
But as far as Ja and JJJ, they've been a bit hard to trust lately. But anytime they're in a high scoring environment, I definitely want some exposure to them. Definitely when they're low owned. So they're just because they're the stars on this side of the ball. I want to go there. And then the only other shot I'm taking is Jalen Wells. He's another semi-auto play for me. He's another cheap guy who won't wow you or anything, but he actually hasn't been playing too bad based on his price. And definitely when his shot is falling, he's somebody who can potentially win you a tournament and be very sneaky at 2%. So I do like taking shots on him with the minutes he's in.
Yeah, agreed. Y'all, we'll get to the Knicks. I see bone alert. That's good, David. You should be in marketing if you're not. Banking said, I'm loving this slate today. Probably my favorite all year. Confidence is Newt. All right, man. You've had some takedowns too this year, so that's saying something. We'll see. I like it too. Not going to lie. 237.5 feels a little high. Well, it was 239, so it's going down. It's lowering. Next up, we have the Magic going up against the Spurs. I was on the fence with this team, and then I just kind of leaned into it. The Magic have a soft matchup against the Spurs. It's a low total, which is the lowest total game on the slate. But for guys like Paolo and Franz, it doesn't really seem to matter too often, as long as it's, yeah, honestly, the matchups typically don't matter for them. They can just kind of go off whenever. So I put a 25% min on Paolo, really just forcing exposure to him. He's one of my favorite pay-up options on the slate. I have a 13% min on Franz, and then Wendell Carter Jr. is just kind of showing up by himself. Or actually, he started to decrease, but he's in 11% of my lines currently, which I'm comfortable with in a soft matchup. Are you seeing any of the Magic show up? Or are you forcing in any of these guys?
Yeah, I didn't have to do anything to Paolo. I'll be close to what you mentioned on him. I just put a 10% min on Franz. I don't like him quite as much, but definitely potential is there in this soft matchup. And then Wendell showing up for me naturally too. I just put a 10% min on him to make sure he doesn't fall below that. So those three are the only ones I'm really focusing on here.
Awesome. Yeah, agreed. Everyone else, yeah, I think there's better options here. And then the Spurs, tough matchup against the Magic, but there are some guys here, especially guys like Sandro, are projecting pretty well. And this is the Hammer game, but it's also the same time as the Warriors game and the Bulls game, so it's not quite the Hammer. What are you doing here? Did you force exposure? Are you seeing any of these guys show up for you?
This was definitely a team. I don't like this spot for them whatsoever, but they do have some cheap guys here. So the DS is giving me some of the guys like Keldon, Champagny, a little bit of Chris Paul, and I had like 1% Mamu. So pretty much just letting the DS dictate what I get here. Don't have any strong opinions here, and they're just a pretty gross team in this matchup.
Okay, let me look a little bit closer at this before I say it. Okay, yeah, I agree with this statement. All right. Some guys are very frustrating when it comes to DFS, and especially when they're on a really bad team like Castle. And we've seen Castle have 50 fantasy point performances against really bad defenses like Philly earlier, maybe like a week or two ago. And we also saw him have a 50-point performance against a good defensive team like the Cavs and a 39-point fantasy performance against Boston. And so with guys like this, I really don't overthink them. The sim model liked Castle a little bit, and at low ownership, I'm just always going to force a little bit more here. The guard position is super valuable today, so I don't think you have to do this. But for me, I have a 6% min on Castle tonight, hoping for one of those 50-point performances he's given us before. Could he easily have a 30-point performance? Yeah, like that's what he's projected for, and that's why he's low owned. But there's at least a little bit of upside, a little bit of meat on the bones that I'm going to force here. Outside of that, I was looking at guys like Sohan and Keldon. I'm off of those plays now. I don't like them as much. Sandro, I do have an 8% min on. 3,400 player, decent points per minute guy. Just like having some exposure there. And then Champagny, I also have an 8% min on as well. Just like his role on this team and the price tag. And then that's really it. I can't really look at any of these guys. Gross spot. Don't go crazy there, but I did like taking a couple of shots. Let's see. Banking said Orlando defense is tough, especially on this slate. Yeah, agreed. Don play. I don't know. I feel like you might be trying to get me to say something wrong, so I'm not going to say anything at all. Right now, I have 3 Portland players, Avdia, Sharp, Dan. Yeah, that's what most lines will look like starting off, and that's totally fine. I don't think that's bad. Banking said, I'm getting some Wagner on FanDuel, not too much else, really. That's good. I don't think you have to force exposure to this game. Jason asked us earlier, who's your favorite cheap players tonight? 2 best values.
I mean, the obvious one is Benton. He's definitely the play of the slate. Mm-hmm. And we'll have 100%. And then I actually never saw the Sun starting line. Let me look too. Allen and Dunn are starting.
Yeah, that's boring. I was really hoping for a ball start. That would have been fun.
Yeah. I'm not really as strong on some of these other value plays as I am Benton. Yeah. Because I just have a decent mixture of everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Benton's your clear, obvious value. Outside of that, it starts to get a little bit grosser. Like, there's options like Heald, Martin, Champagny, but they're more dart throws than, like, solid value. It's really Benton that you're looking at there as kind of like your number one value option on the slate. And outside of that, it's a little bit more balanced for me. Let's see. Danton. All right. Yeah, I like Danton. He's a really solid play on this slate, and he's in 99% of my lines. So, yeah,
100 over here.
Yeah, and you could easily lock him. I wouldn't shame that at all. So yeah, it's pretty much gonna be everything for us. You won't be available tomorrow, will you, Brandon?
Yes, I will be back tomorrow.
Oh, sweet. So it looks like we'll be able to have you and Jay on the show tomorrow, which will be awesome. And so we'll be able to have the trio together again, and then hopefully can have something to celebrate tonight. So good luck, everyone. Wish you all the best, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.